Wow. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Grace. You know, with a second from my assistant Senate leader, a new generation of Democratic-NPL leaders. We're so proud to have worked side by side with him, literally, like he says. And then, how about a nomination from our greatest generation, Grace Link. To have a woman with Grace's wisdom and insight and love for North Dakota, it just warms my heart to even be on stage with her. Thank you so much, Grace. So with those two generations urging me forward, what can I say? Mr. Chairman, I accept this party's nomination to be the next governor of North Dakota. You know, like the song says, as we walked up, it said, "Welcome to the future." And there we go. The video asked children on that video, she's going to check out that screen there, and I don't blame her. What they asked those children, they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" You know, if you'd asked me that when I was a kid, I'd have looked you right in the eye, and I'd have said, "I want to be a cowboy." You know, and I wanted to be a cowboy, and I wanted to wear a hat because Dad was a cowboy, and Dad wore a hat. And I just wanted to be like Dad. And I guess when I grew up, I did get to be a cowboy and a rancher and be a lot like my dad. And if you knew Dad, that was a high goal. But the most important job I have is to be a dad myself. So let me introduce my kids. Other most important job I have is to be a husband. Let me introduce you to my wife. My wife, Nikki. Yeah. You can see she's beautiful, but you know what? Her heart and her soul is just as beautiful as she is. I proposed to Nikki on my first election day, my first Senate race, November 5th, 2002. And I proposed in a little white steepled country church called Keene First Lutheran. And then we were married in that same church on July 5th of 2003. And I guess you know that I won her vote. And since that time, we've been blessed biennially. With these three little angels, sometimes rascals. So let me start with my our 7-year-old Bud. His name is Marshall, but we all call him Bud, after his grandpa Bud. Yeah. Our 5-year-old is Olav, and we all call him Oli after his great-grandfather named Oli. And the little girl in the flowers is our 3-year-old, sweet little Sylvia, and she's named after her great-grandmother, Sylvia. So... This speech is going to be plenty entertaining. We're going to let them entertain off to the side now, all right? But you know, today this husband, father, rancher, writer, senator stands before you to say, you know, this race for governor isn't about me. It's about you. It's about them, our children, all of our children. It's about the state that we want to pass on to our kids and our grandkids. It's not about this cowboy before you, and as much as people wonder, you know, it's really not about the hat. It's not about those blue hats either, honestly. It's about a new beginning, and our chance at this special time to elect a people's governor of North Dakota. Now, the people's governor isn't just some pairing of words. It's a testament to who I am and how I intend to lead. To be a governor who comes from the grassroots, who saddles his own horse and pitches his own hay, who stands with people from across this state from all walks of life, all ages, all genders, color, or economic status. A people's governor who will work to protect our special quality of life and who has the courage to stand up and speak out for real North Dakota people. Real people. Because you see, where I come from, corporations aren't people. People are people. Now, a person doesn't just wake up one day and decide to be governor. Unless, of course, you're the lieutenant and your governor heads to D.C. to be a senator. And then you do wake up to be the next in a long line of our statewide officials who got their job by inheritance or appointment. Now, pundits ask me, why should North Dakota fire the current governor? But I have to remind them that you really can't fire him because he's yet to be hired for the job that he now holds. But this fall, we do get to hire our governor, the old-fashioned way, by having real people cast real ballots and choosing between two or more candidates who are all on the ballot for governor for the very first time. For 20 years, we've seen state government fashion a small ruling class of closely connected and extremely wealthy individuals. We've seen money and influence flow in, all our hard-earned tax money and favorable policy flowing out to a few friends of that class. And rank-and-file North Dakotans are told to just never mind what they're doing. Just keep moving, nothing to see here. We are told that our current financial and economic windfall is the North Dakota way. That we owe it all to, quote, 11 years of very hard work. But I would say it's owed more to millions of years of intense pressure on ancient organic matter 10,000 feet below the surface. A little more than 11 years of taking credit. So as we ask the people of North Dakota to hire a governor, what will we talk about in that interview? We will rightly talk about our quality of life across all of our state. We will ask if we are trading away those very traits that make this state special, a place where we want to make our life and raise our families. We will talk about ideas to put the cost of college back in reach for the hardworking families of North Dakota by creating a lasting harvest scholarship similar to the Hathaway Scholarship in Wyoming, when they invested their revenues from oil and gas production. We can do that here. We ought not to have the largest state budget surplus in the country while asking the majority of our students to take on increasing levels of student loan debt. We can use this special moment in history wisely by investing in our next generation. We can help working families and businesses in the state by fostering opportunities for daycare where parents can feel secure in knowing that their children are safe and well cared for. What good is all this wealth if we are the only state not putting state dollars towards Head Start for needy children? If we do less than most every state in the country to help our kids get health insurance, or if we stay at the bottom with Alabama in providing prenatal care for mothers who can't afford health insurance on their own. How we care for our children, how we support our families who only want their kids to have the same opportunities they had and a chance for a better life, how we show respect in our policies for our seniors, our greatest generation, says a lot about our society. Our communities deserve the peace of mind knowing that the approaching of spring does not mean the encroaching of floods. And that means we make investments and explore ways for the state to provide permanent flood protection, to innovate and support basin-wide retention, and not always wait solely for federal appropriations. Our residents can't fill sandbags year after year. We can't have another 19 years of Devil's Lake flooding. We can't bear to see the devastation of another Mouse River or a Missouri River or Cheyenne River or any other rivers flood on its citizens. And when disaster has struck, our state must do all that we can to aid in the rebuilding and the recovery. We cannot hoard money, yes. We cannot hoard money in Bismarck and then expect more from D.C. when our people are hurting. The governor must be a flood victim's best advocate, even if it means challenging the legislature's majority leadership to do what we know is right. Obviously, we'll talk about oil, and not just about how great everything is and how those in charge seem to have created it. We will talk about the impact of that development on our communities. We'll give credit to the companies who have cracked the code to get at it, but we will also demand responsibility and stewardship, and we will call on the state to shoulder its responsibility to the people of western North Dakota. People who want and deserve to feel safe in their communities, who want roads that aren't crumbling, schools that aren't pushed far beyond their capacity, who need emergency responders and firefighters and police who aren't stretched to the point of burnout. Yeah. Certainly, oil provides much for our economy, and yes, we're going to get every drop of oil in due time as the market demands. But nothing comes for free, and we can't break the spirit of our fellow North Dakotans in an unbridled rush for fast fortune. We'll ask for some balance of this one-time harvest, and we'll enlist all voices in the debate, not just the voices of those who profit greatly and then in turn contribute to campaigns. I recently read a Bloomberg Businessweek article about our 36th richest American, Continental Oil's Harold Hamm, who just so happens to be a leading contributor to the governor's campaign. He wrote out a $20,000 campaign contribution to him. But don't worry. He's worth $11 billion at last count, with a B. Now, I appreciate hard work. I appreciate those who take risk and who are entrepreneurs, and I believe that is all good and fine. But it was the title of the article that rubbed me wrong. It said, "The Man Who Bought North Dakota." Well, as governor, I'll have the courage to stand up and say, you know what? North Dakota is not for sale. We will not sell out our quality of life for campaign contributions. We'll not sell out for million-dollar positions on boards of directors. We'll not fall for the old lower our oil taxes or we're going to pack up and leave line. I will not trade away all that makes this place special because I grew up knowing that there is more to life than money, and that position and power don't make you any more important than those without position or power or money. With me as governor, North Dakota will not be for sale because I'm not for sale. And I'm beholden to no person and no network of country club cronies. I learned on our homestead ranch that there are things in life we do not trade for any price. When my grandmother and my great-grandmother lost their husbands tragically and found themselves widowed and raising 3 little kids, an infant, a 1-year-old, and a 3-year-old, on the unforgiving prairie in the 1920s, you know what? They didn't sell the ranch. They persevered, and they kept the ranch because it was worth more than money. Will we trade away our quality of life simply so we can step to the podium and say, our GDP is growing, and so everything is great? I believe the words of Robert Kennedy, who said correctly that GDP measures everything except that which makes life worthwhile. It tells us everything about America except why we are proud to be Americans. We'll not trade our safety, our landscape, our agricultural heritage, our hunting and fishing, those things that make life worthwhile, for unbridled growth. Why would we? To produce more and more oil to be sold at greater and greater discounts because we're not yet billed to transport, or better yet, refine it for ourselves? No, we can take advantage of our natural resources and not be taken advantage of. Now, declaring that our quality of life is not for sale and having the courage to speak out will bear a cost. A couple of years ago, you might have heard a radio ad that accused me of being against the Bakken. As one of my Republican ranching friends from Mackenzie County who heard the ad said to me with a chuckle, he said, "Ryan, I didn't even know anyone could be against a geological formation." No, I'm all for the Bakken and the Three Forks and the Tyler. Heck, I'm even for the Ness and Anticline. I'm for all the subterranean geology of North Dakota. But you know what else I'm for? I'm for the water and the soil on the surface that has sustained North Dakota's God-given agricultural bounties for countless generations. And I'm for the people that live and make their living on that land. Now, I say this, I want to remind you, as a guy whose friends and neighbors have had good jobs on the rigs, and we appreciate that, whose brother-in-law drives truck for the industry, whose wife comes from oil country with nearly everyone in the neighborhood of that church where we got married, connected to the business in one way or another. This is not about the false notion that oil extraction is either all on or all off. It's about understanding the cost and being the one brave enough to stand up on the Industrial Commission and ask the hard questions about ensuring our future quality of life. The Industrial Commission is the elected oversight for our oil and gas industry. One member is up for election this year, and that's the governor. And this is our time to demand courage on that commission. So why, you would ask, does that matter to anyone east of Highway 83? First, it matters because we're all North Dakotans, and we're all in this together. Every one of us in this state realizes the importance of sustainable oil revenues and a strong energy economy, because even the road repairs of central and eastern North Dakota have a link to the oil being hauled on those roads in western North Dakota. In order to do what's right for the rest, we have to get it right in the west. Putting a people's governor back in the office, honorably held by Bill Guy, Art Link, Bud Center, it's going to mean putting our state's people back in the office. And here's the difference. At an oil conference in Denver, our governor told the executives there, quote, "I'll guarantee you'll always have direct access to the highest levels of state government in North Dakota." And that's fine, but isn't that the same access everyone should have? And shortly after that meeting in Denver, back in North Dakota, when locked out workers seeking only unemployment insurance benefits were at the Capitol and asked to see our governor, they were told that he didn't have time to meet with them. And I'll tell you this, as the people's governor, you know who would get direct access and time? Those locked out workers would have. It seems every day there's an issue or an agency. Workers' Comp, WSI. The Board of Higher Ed, our Industrial Commission, our Land Board, demanding someone with courage to speak out for the people of North Dakota. It's as if they retired the bully pulpit from the governor's office and put it in storage. And inside that bully pulpit, they must have had the veto pen. At this moment of time in North Dakota, we must hear the voice of a leader that speaks with conviction. We must hear the governor. But mostly we have gotten silence. You can find anything on YouTube these days. In that void of leadership, our public discourse seems to come from a House Majority Leader, who even the Fargo Forum says has displayed antics that should disqualify him from leadership. But if the governor was truly leading and using the bully pulpit, we'd not be dealing with the bullying tactics of Al Carlson. The importance of this election was first explained to me 30 years ago by my dad on a hay meadow in Smoky Lake Township. I was running the bull rake, the hay bucker. Some of you know what that is. Our hay bucker was on an A John Deere, and as I was bull raking, I remember reaching down below the throttle and finding a spring. And when I pulled that spring back, the tractor would take off lickety-split. I asked Dad what I had done when I pulled that spring back, and he told me, "You just bypassed the governor." Then I asked him what would happen if I kept doing that, if we kept bypassing the governor. He said, "You'd blow the tractor up." I remember the lesson well. And I think about the times when North Dakota most needed a governor with strength and courage, at times of unprecedented natural resource development. And you know what? Nobody bypassed Art Link when he was governor. And North Dakota came through that era with its values intact because a rancher, a legislator from McKenzie County, had the courage to stand up and speak out for the long-term good of this state. And today, a rancher, a legislator from McHenry County, is stepping forward for that same task. We know this will not be an easy race, but nothing worth doing has ever been easy. Some will say a Democrat can't win in North Dakota, but we know better. We know the future here goes far beyond political labels. It's about ideas and character and having the right person at the right time. And if that person does what's right, people will surprise you with their reaction. Independents and some Republicans will vote for the person rather than the party when they see the sincerity of a just cause. I remember bringing my mother home from the hospital in Rochester, Minnesota on New Year's Day, 2009. She'd spent 60 days at Mayo fighting for her life against late-stage ovarian cancer. She wasn't well, but she wanted to get back to North Dakota. She wanted to get back to her husband. She was in a wheelchair. She had to have oxygen. She had tubes and pouches and pain. But I promised to get her home. We got through security, and we got to the gate at the airport. And of course, let everybody else board first. Then we transferred her to one of those narrow wheelchairs that would fit down the center aisle of the plane. We went down the ramp to the plane, and the flight attendant backed it up a few rows to her seat. Now, this all took time, and I'm sure the passengers were wondering what the holdup was. Why wasn't that plane taking off on time? We got to the seat, and I was in front of Mom, and I told her, I said, Give me a hug, Mom. I'll lift you up, and I'll get you in your seat. And she put her arms around me, and I lifted her up. She'd lost so much weight it hardly felt like her. But when she was up, I raised my eyes, and I looked down the length of that airplane at the passengers who were probably impatient and hurried and disgruntled. But I looked up, and I can see them just like it was yesterday. I saw nothing but kindness and support in every face as they watched me hug my mom to get her home. Now, we got Mom home, and she got to see Dad. And she passed away on North Dakota soil. And I learned many things that day. But one that I think of now is that, when you're doing what's right, people will surprise you with their reaction. Helping my mother get home was right. And air travelers, who usually aren't a sympathetic bunch, surprised me with understanding and kindness. And standing up and speaking out for our future quality of life in North Dakota, it's the right thing to do. And people will surprise us with how they vote. So this is where it all starts today. Together, we set out to make North Dakota history. This is not so improbable. We can do this. I think often of the quote credited to an influential Republican power broker when our North Dakota friend, then Vice President Teddy Roosevelt, rose to power. And he said, "Look now, that damned cowboy is president of the United States." How much fun would it be, come November 7th, to have that small club of political power brokers in this state wake up and say, "Look now, that damned cowboy is governor of North Dakota." And just like TR, we could usher in an era that values people more than corporations and calls for conservation at a time when conservatives are not. So our success at this special moment in time depends on you, all of you who care so deeply about our future quality of life in this special place called North Dakota. So together, let's spread the word. Let's make the difference. Let's win the race. Let's go do it.